Welcome to the Local Pulse on HBC. I'm Dave Dicke. The Local Pulse is a show where we take a look at some of the great things that are happening in our communities. And today we are joined by Sandra Burke. Sandra is the Executive Director of Winona Volunteer Services. And Sandra, it's so nice to have you with us today.
Oh, great to be here, Dave. Thank you.
So
This
when we
reminds
talk,
me of I just have to say, this reminds me of a long, long time ago when we would have these conversations in was it the basement of St. Cecilia Hall for
the
HBC?
old HBC TV 25 studios, yes.
Oh, man. So we go back a long way.
We're not going to talk about how far back that is.
Uh,
Um, So we're going to talk about all kinds of things today, and kind of talk about some of the services that Winona Volunteer Services offers. And I think first of all, maybe to start off, you serve a pretty good chunk of Winona County. Is that fair to say? And then, do
that
you
is.
also stretch into West Central Wisconsin a little bit, or how does that work?
Well, our focus certainly is here in Winona. And so certain programs like Groceries on the Go and our home delivered meal program target the Winona area. However, for the food shelf, even though the food shelf is located here on Second Street, anybody who comes to our door and says that they need assistance with food will be helped by the food shelf. So they may be from another county, they may be from Wisconsin, they may be from greater Winona County. It really doesn't matter. If they come to our door, they'll receive services. So it really depends on the program and what they're asking of us.
So when you serve such a large area and a large group of people, what are some of those challenges that you face as an organization to make all of these services available and happen?
Right. Well, our mission is, to help people address life's challenges in a respectful and dignified manner. So we realize and we listen to a variety of challenges, be it something unexpected happen, be it an incident where maybe they were, a victim of a scam and lost their monies. The situations are just very, very broad and not alike. And so the challenge is to actually listen to what the individual is asking of us and to see if there are existing resources to help that individual, or is it something that we can do internally through one of our voucher programs. So it's a lot of listening and targeting what that individual is seeking and then looking at the available resources.
So you mentioned a couple of programs, and I wanted to talk about those a little bit later, the groceries on the go and that sort of thing. And but there are situations I'm sure that come up maybe daily. People come in and they need some extra money. They need maybe something happened. Maybe they lost their apartment. They weren't able to pay their rent. You so while you may not be able to provide them housing, you can help get them the resources they need to help them get back on their feet again. Is that correct?
That is, and it certainly is. And once again, so many different situations. Through our client services coordinator and our coordinated assistance program, we issued 510 vouchers for anything from helping with rent assistance to car repair, diapers, a seat or Winona Transit bus pass. So it's the gamut. Some situations are a little bit easier to assist with. So for instance, if somebody's looking for help with, let's say, rent, but they're just new to town and they don't have a job and there's no income, there's very limited resources available. So we still have to work within the services and the existing resources that are available in the community. And, you know, and there's shelters, be it the warming center here in Winona or between Rochester and La Crosse. So once again, what may work for one individual, that kind of the same scenario may not, those resources may not apply or be available to somebody else. So it is a lot of listening. It's a lot of connecting with community resources. And once again, through our coordinated assistance, we have built over the years an incredible network of working with the churches, law enforcement, the emergency department here in town, just a variety of individuals who, you know, our Kay Peterson is very familiar with who does what and who do we reach out to for that assistance. Vice versa. So if somebody goes to a local church and says, hey, I need help with work boots, the churches are familiar with our organization. They can refer that individual to us Monday through Friday, and we can then help with that assistance for that individual. So it works both ways with community resources. People refer to us and we refer out.
Now, some of the services that you do offer, I know. I think one thing that maybe people don't realize so much, you have a nutrition education person on staff there to help with, I think, what do you do, meal planning and how to, well, cook nutritious food, right?
That's what we're hoping for. Jen Brightlow joined us about 5 years ago, and we've expanded her role because, you know, trying to get people to change habits are difficult. And so Jen is now, and she has been for quite a while. She orders all of our food from Channel One. She's the one that wants to make sure that we have healthy foods available. And she's also available to answer questions from individuals who may say, you know what, I have a very specific diet. I have a very specific, health concern that I need certain types of food. And for some reason, I'm not seeing maybe those foods here. So Jen can work with that individual to say, well, let me help you. Let's see what we've got and if we can fill in your needs. And certainly she will help with meal planning. She will talk about diet. She will do anything healthy food related for our clientele. The problem is many a times when they're shopping in the food shelf, they may not want to take the time and stop and chat with her, but she's more than willing to make those phone conversations happen or set appointments to talk. But as we know, changing any part of our lifestyle is difficult. So, that's why we had to expand and do other things and have her do more of the food and management of the food shelf.
Yeah, you're right. Change doesn't happen overnight, and sometimes it doesn't happen over a year either. So,
oh gosh, no. And speaking from personal experience, so we all know what's good for us, and we don't always, choose those items. And once again, we're here not to deny anything, but just talking about the food shelf, our goal is to have healthy, nutritious foods available. But certainly we still accept donations that cover the gamut of whatever people are willing to donate to us. So we accept any food donations, no matter what they are. They're all equal, as we say, we laugh about it, all foods are equal here in the food shelf, and people get to pick and choose what they like and don't have to select other things.
Well, since we're talking about the food shelf, let's kind of keep going on this topic. So, what type of food donate? You said any food donation, but it's specifically it's the non-perishable items, correct?
Yes, that we will accept from private donors. So when somebody calls us and says, I have a frozen turkey in my refrigerator or freezer, we kindly say we can't accept that. We can't accept those perishable items. But if they have a case of vegetables or a case of pasta or a can, we'll gladly accept those non-perishable items from the general public. On the other hand, we're always encouraging cash donations, because that then allows us to purchase the frozen protein, the meats, the chicken, the fruits and vegetables, the dairy, the eggs from either Channel 1, our regional food bank out of Rochester, or locally if we can't get it through Channel 1.
What is the specific? Are there any guidelines for people to be able to use the food shelf? I mean, it's not I can't, well, I wouldn't go shop the food shelf. I don't want to make sure that food was available for other people. But
Yeah.
what are the guidelines for that?
It's very, very easy to access the food shelf. And in fact, we are at the only guideline, naturally you have to be physically present at our doorstep. So you're automatically, if you're in Minnesota, and you're coming because you have a need for food. And then we just show folks the income guidelines, and they just have to verbally tell us, yes, they meet that income requirement. So there's no paperwork involved. They don't have to show any ID. It's just their verbal recognition that they meet these income guidelines. So the state of Minnesota increased our guidelines. We were at 200% of the federal poverty guidelines for somebody to enter into our food shelf. And then during the pandemic, that was increased to 300%. And the state has chosen not to go back to 200. So and these guidelines change every year in July. So for a household of one, if you're making at or below $45,000 a year, you would qualify for the food shelf. And for a family of four, that number is 93,600. So the part of the reasoning that they're keeping it at 300% is that this allows a lot of folks that do work and maybe have a family with a child or another spouse, the availability to utilize the food shelf. And I say that because in the state of Minnesota, we are, I'll call it a TFAP food shelf, which is the Emergency Food Assistance Program food shelf, which is a federally funded entity. And we do receive some free product of food through our food banks here in the state of Minnesota. And I'll just preface this as well, Dave, that every state has different guidelines on how they process this USDA food. And so what happens in the state of Minnesota may not happen in another state. So I'm talking just what is guiding us here in the state of Minnesota. And so they say in order for us to receive this free or no cost product, that we are going to abide by these guidelines. And so a lot of our maybe state funding as well is tied to the fact that we are a TFAP food shelf. So realistically, most people don't even meet these higher income guidelines. They have access to the food shelf, and we are working with some additional changes that recently happened at the beginning of the year, and like I said, it just makes it very easy. And to go back to another thing, I've always enjoyed every time we have a major food drive going on, like the March campaign, I want to make sure if people are out there struggling and they don't know where they're going to get their next meal from, something happened unexpectedly, funds are tight, they need to know that within the city of Winona, we have this fabulous food shelf that's run by just very gracious and so considerate volunteers that they're there to serve. And we have, I think, also a new building with a new food shelf in it. And so coming and asking for help, we've just made it very easy. So I just like to make that full circle that anyone who's experiencing a lack of food or a lack of healthy food, we've got food available at the food shelf. So, the other thing I'll point out as well, we are not a grocery store. So a lot of times, maybe a new client may be coming to us, or even ones that have been coming for a while. They're like, well, why don't you have this? Or why don't you have that brand of something? Because we don't order that way. We do pay. In fact, I paid $165,000 last year purchasing food from the Channel One Food Bank, as well as locally, to make sure we had eggs available for folks. So in addition to the free food we get, not only through the government program, TFAP, we do a lot of food rescue. We get food from Walmart, all 7 Quick Trip stores, Midtown, Hy-Vee, the Co-op, Aldi, and so we got a lot of food product coming in. But we don't always control that product. So this is a great opportunity to share that we're meant to be supplemental. We're not meant to provide all of your grocery needs, although there are a handful of folks that do use us more often than others. So it's just important to know we have food if you need it, but also at the same time, it's not like a grocery store.
You mentioned the food rescue. I was going to bring that up if you didn't, and
Yeah.
it's such a great program because that food otherwise just hits the dumpster and it goes to waste, and it's perfectly good food. I know HBC. I'm going to put a little plug in for HBC. Does the food pickup at Aldi's every week, and the variety of food available. There's breads. There's, cereal, canned goods, some meats. And a lot of times the box has a crinkle in it, or there's every once in a while, there's a 12 pack of a soda pop in there that the 12 pack container, it ripped. So the cans are kind of loose. And back in the day, that would have just gotten thrown away. And it's so wonderful now that there's a program where that's collected by volunteers and then brought to the food shelf for people to actually be able to use.
And once again, hats off to HBC, because you are we call you one of our corporate volunteers because you are working during the day. But HBC allows, you and others to do this food rescue for us. And it adds value not only to our variety of food we're able to get for no cost, but it brings value to the individuals who use the food shelf. And as you said, it's not always then going into the waste. So we're still using it as much as we can until it absolutely has no life left. So thank you for that. Thank you for that service.
You bet. We're going to take a quick break on the local pulse, and when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about the March FoodShare event, which is going on right now in Minnesota. Stay with us.
The Command IQ app helps me manage the Wi-Fi in every room of the house however I want.
My husband used to have abs, but now he just has flabs.
It's not a book club meeting, it's a make fun of me meeting. Well, what happens in book club doesn't always stay in book club.
Honey, my Wi-Fi is down. That never happens.
Well, that's strange. Well, we'll see if we can get someone to come fix it next month.
Welcome back to the Local Pulse. I'm Dave Dicke, and today Sandra Burke is our guest from Winona Volunteer Services. And right now in Minnesota, it's an annual event called March FoodShare Month. And this is a very important month for not just Winona Volunteer Services food shelf, but food shelves all across the state of Minnesota, because this is kind of the big drive, isn't it?
It certainly is. It's a statewide food drive, like you said, and it really gets big food shelves as well as small food shelves the opportunity to tout, number one, that we're in the community and that we need your help. I was looking at, we're doing wrap up of our statistics from last year. And once again, only 1% of our funding came from the federal government. All the rest is local individuals and corporations and foundations supporting the work that we do. So we rely heavily on the community to find value in us running a food shelf and the other programs that we do. And we're here for the month telling you how good we are and how we're serving those individuals that struggle to put food on their table. So March is a great month for us. It includes the Boy Scout food drive. So that's gonna be happening later towards on March 22nd. So we get a lot of folks involved in this great opportunity to help set the stage, because this is our first major food drive of the year.
Now, there are other food drives in Winona. You mentioned the Boy Scouts. The postal carriers do a food drive a little bit later on. I think that's in the summer sometime, if I'm not mistaken. And Merchants Bank does their 10 days of giving. And I know a lot of people see that in Winona and know what that's all about and how much food comes in for that. But that's gone like that, I imagine, isn't it?
Dave, just in December through 10 days, we collected about 22,000 pounds of food. We definitely collected a lot more cash, which is fabulous. We average in a month distributing over 66,000 pounds during 1 month. So the 20,000, 30,000 pounds of food. Last year, the March campaign brought in almost 25,000 pounds of food. That really is about 2 weeks worth of food in the food shelf. We've consistently seen our number of visits increase as well last year, and we averaged 22% higher in 2024 than in 2023. So our average monthly visits is 1,008. 188 visits each month.
Wow.
So in order to serve that population, we need to have the food or the cash available to purchase food.
And you mentioned the cash, and cash is actually, I guess the cash is king, because when we go to the grocery store, our cash well, fill up your grocery cart and it's, a couple $100. But you actually get a little better deal with our cash when you're buying for the food shelf, right?
Correct. When we utilize Channel One, in addition to just getting the government food, the TFAP food, they also have purchased product available for us. And so that's what Jen does. Every week, she looks through the shopping list that they put out there for us and says, I'm ordering 10 cases of this, 20 cases of that. And our Channel One bill for the month of July is right hovering at $14,000.
Wow.
So we're able to buy frozen hamburger, sometimes chicken, sometimes fish. So it's the food product that our clients are telling us that they want to see in the food shelf. And so that's what we target.
And we're getting to kind of short on time here, but I wanted to make sure that we talked about the volunteers at Winona Volunteer Services, because you mentioned closer to the top of the show here that without the volunteers, there's really not a lot you can do. So how many volunteers do you have working through volunteer services?
Well, pushing 400.
Wow.
And that takes into account, Dave, we have home delivered meal volunteers. We have 11 routes Monday through Friday. So it's a minimum of 55 volunteers. And many of those volunteers are tied to a corporation. And so they may have, Merchants Bank may have 20 volunteers helping us for that program. We have the clothes shop. We have clothing sorters. As we mentioned, the food shelf. We have warehouse volunteers. We have stocking volunteers. We have volunteers that do groceries on the go, which is a free food delivery service for individuals who maybe are homebound and can't get to us or don't have reliable transportation. So those individuals are vetted through Jen, and if they qualify for the program, they're on a schedule either on a Tuesday or a Thursday, and we have a couple of folks that deliver those meal or those boxes of food to them. We have project volunteers, volunteers that will help us in a food sorting or a spring cleaning type of event. I'm sitting in the room where VITA volunteers are now operating out of. And so VITA is under our umbrella at Winona Volunteer Services, and they utilize volunteers for free tax preparation services. So Thursdays, they're not working here. That's why I'm able to be sitting in this room.
So before we wrap things up here, what are the hours for volunteer services for, let's start food shelf hours? Because you've got different hours for different areas.
Dave. Yep, and look at our website if you don't catch this. But Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, the food shelf is open at 10 a.m. until 12:45 p.m. On Thursdays, we open at 2 until 5:30. And then Fridays, we open at 2 until 4:45. The clothes shop is open Monday through Friday at 11 until 4:30. And then on Saturdays from 10 until 12:30.
Yeah. I encourage people to go check out the clothes shop. And if you want to volunteer, just give a call to Volunteer Services. We'll put the number down here at the bottom. And I know you'll be happy to help them out.
And visit our website. We've got great information on there, and even a volunteer application form. And also like us on Facebook. We try to post happenings, or if we're going to host a sale, or just acknowledge all the good work that and all the good support we get from the community. So like us on Facebook as well.
All right. Well, Sandra, thank you so much for taking time to talk with us today on the Local Pulse. It's great to see you.
Oh, it's great. Thanks so much for this opportunity.
We thank you for watching, and we hope to join us next time on the Local Pulse.